What's up, dudes? We are reviewing WandaVision. This is our WandaVision Spoilercast, so I think it goes without saying we're going to be spoiling this. I brought in my friend Austin to talk about it. Me and him are both very passionate about the MCU and this new WandaVision show, so I hope you enjoy our Spoilercast. Let's just jump right into it, shall we? I don't know if I should do an intro or if I should insert an intro in later. Is it necessary to even say we're gonna be spoiling this? Is it even necessary to say that? You know that's what this is.
I mean,
you know,
if you put it in the title of the file, just Spoilercast.
Yeah, I probably will just call it a spoilercast. I feel like that's every video on the internet. It's we're talking about WandaVision. Look out for spoilers. And it's I don't feel like there's any way to talk about WandaVision without spoiling it. Intensely. Yeah, let's just jump into it, huh? What'd you think of the old WandaVision?
As a whole, I really enjoyed it. It a bit brought me out of the mentality of after Endgame the MCU's done for. I don't even care anymore. It brought me out of it significantly. There's still some work for me to care as much. I don't know if I ever will care as much as I did before Endgame, but it's getting there.
I feel similarly where when Endgame ended, right? I remember being so hyped on that movie, and I was very excited for Spider-Man, and I went into Spider-Man and I just and I liked it. I thought Spider-Man was fine because that's the only movie we've had since Endgame, and I thought it was fine, but it was just hard to care after Endgame. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this show came.
The weirdest thing about. Oh no, you go.
But yeah, this show came, and I'm back in. But I will say I care differently. I wouldn't say I care less. I care differently now about the MCU than I did before. Where when I cared about the MCU before, it was I can't wait to see the next Marvel movie. I can't wait to see what it is, what's happening. Now I care about it because it feels like comic books now. It straight up is comic books, where it's we have this story going on with Wanda, and this set up Captain Marvel 2. It also set up Doctor Strange 2. It maybe set up the Eternals with White Vision. Who knows? And it's you don't have to watch any of those things to get this, but it helps. Just like the Marvel comics, where it's it helps to read, but when they have a big crossover event in the comics, it's I mainly read the Hulk or whatever, but now I kind of want to go see what's going on in these other properties. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. It's got stuff it's got Darcy from the Thor movies, and Jimmy Woo from Ant-Man, and fucking Monica Rambeau from she was a little girl in Captain Marvel, but she was first in Captain Marvel. You don't need to see any of those to really follow this, but it's nice to see them. And kind of a weird thing that the direction they're going with stuff like WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's of course it's the aftermath of Endgame, the biggest thing that happened in the literal universe. And I don't know, you could argue that the universe was established way earlier in the MCU, but I feel with Endgame, building up to Endgame, it was we're building the universe, we're growing it and we're building the universe. And with Endgame and everything after, it feels like the universe is built. We have our toy box, we have our things we have our gambits to explore, and now we're going to explore them.
Yeah, totally.
We had seen Vision. We had seen Wanda. We'd seen Wanda and Vision in other movies and developed in other movies, as a means to build up the universe. But now we can afford to explore them. in a venue like this, like in a show.
Yeah, it's true. It's like it's fucking cool, man. I've never seen anything like it in movies or television. It didn't feel like a TV show, like proper, but it didn't feel like a Marvel movie either. Where maybe the last episode kind of felt like a Marvel movie. Maybe we should just hop into the show and just start talking about the show.
Yeah.
Like, to me, what to you was like the best episode, I guess? Like, what do you think?
I'd say the one that got me the most like intrigued, like in the way that, like, I changed the position I was sitting on the couch watching it like more intently, was episode 4, and I think that one's called like "We Interrupt This Program" or whatever. When
we finally get the dump.
Opens with introducing Monica Rambeau and bringing Darcy and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the information dump.
You know what's weird?
The best episode, but that one like changed things for me. What?
To me, the best episode was the second to last one, where it's like previous. I think it was called Previously On.
Like going through Wanda's whole backstory.
Yeah, where we sort of get an origin story about what's going on with who Wanda is and why she's been doing the sitcom aesthetic. And basically it's like she lived in a war, and like literally there's a war outside of their window. They open up the window and they're shooting right there. You'd think they'd be like taking cover or something, but they're like, no, let's
yeah, but it's a thing they're living with.
Yeah, I guess. You'd think it'd be like a little further down the street, but I guess that's more of just like storytelling than anything else. But yeah, it was just cool to see like that backstory. And it also like it's more dramatic to like open the window. Yeah.
It's more dramatic to like open the window and see war happening, and not just like, oh, blocks away this is happening.
It put little kernels of like what's going on with Wanda as well, because like there's that scene where the bomb enters in and you see the whole Stark Industries thing, and the question is like
the whole thing that
did she deactivate it
in Age of Ultron?
Yeah, did she deactivate it though with her? Is she already a mutant? And then like the stone gave her like additional powers, you know? Yeah, but I like that. I like that scene. We're jumping back in. I like that scene where, it leaves the question, and like Catherine Hahn, who plays Agatha Harkness, is like, did you do that? Was that you? And she's like, no, the bomb just didn't work. So it leaves this like kernel of like, are they setting up mutants here?
Like she said that she set up some kind of like probability altering spell around her and Pietro, and she's like, no, it just didn't go off. So yeah, she did have some like witchy powers when she was younger, and then being experimented on Hydra, like it amplified them, and of course getting more amped powers from Mind Stone, right?
Yeah. And I also love that episode because the interaction between her and Vision in that flashback, it really cements like how important their relationship is. I think more so than any of the previous movies. Like that scene of them sitting on the bed, watching Malcolm in the Middle, and you know, and he says the line of like, what is grief but love persevering? And you're just like, that is A tier writing, bro. That is some A tier writing. Just incredible. That entire episode to me was just like, that was the chef's kiss of the entire show to me.
Something that's like a blink and you'll miss it detail that I really liked in that scene was her explaining like what her situation was, like being at the Avengers compound, like, oh, she was in a new country, like she had just lost her brother and everything, and like she was grieving and like having all these new changes around her, being part of a team, which like back when we were in the thick of it, of like the MCU of like phase 2, like, oh, Age of Ultron and all that kind of stuff. Like we were mostly concerned as the audience, like, oh, she's going to be on the team and like this character is going to be here, do that thing. We were more so concerned of the logistics of like, oh, they got to be in this movie because they got to be in this movie. But I think with that line in that scene, it showed that like these we should treat them like real people. Like these are like real characters that like are going through changes through their lives, like to meet that. Where like, yeah, it's easy to put Wanda in like the Avengers team, like at the end of Age of Ultron, like, oh, she's part of the team, yay. And like, oh, the beginning of Civil War, like, oh, she's part of the team. But like she said, no, it was like serious changes for her, like being into a new country, and like she just lost her brother. Like she felt like a stranger.
I think that is what's special about this show as a whole, is most of this show isn't your typical, up until the last episode, isn't your like typical, let's fly in the sky, let's shoot lasers at each other, let's stop a giant sky beam. It's a very human sort of story throughout the entire thing. Granted, like the first, 3 or 4 episodes, we have no idea what's happening. We're watching this like sort of sitcom play out, and it goes out throughout the years, and in every episode there's a little like tinge of like, what the hell's going on? And then it's in the 4th episode when they sort of explain what's going on with these side characters of Jimmy Woo and Monica Rambeau. And I remember that scene, that episode, to bring it back to that episode. I remember because it opens with her being sucked back from the blip of the Thanos snap. So like the undoing. Yeah. So the Iron Man snap, I guess. Or
I think that was the Hulk snap. The
Hulk snap. There's been 3 snaps now. Yeah. So this was like at the start of the Hulk snap. And I wasn't expecting to see that in this show. Like I was kind of half expecting Marvel to just sort of be like, okay, that happened. Now let's just move away from it. You know, you like, because that's a very hard story beat to deal with. The fact that people were gone for 5 years and now they're back. But no, this show dealt with it in very, like, unlike Spider-Man, where it was sort of like a joke and like people just got blipped back, and it was sort of like they made it a giant joke in that one. But in this one, it had like very severe sort of consequences to the universe, where, you know, Monica's mom didn't get blipped, but she died while she was blipped. So when she comes back, her mom's gone. Or, you know, Wanda got blipped as well, and she comes back, and Vision now has been dead for 5 years. You know, so like they actually dealt with some pretty heavy themes dealing with the blip, and I wasn't expecting that from this show at all.
Yeah, and I really like what you said, because I was going to say that too, like how Spider-Man just treated it as a joke, where it's like, oh, everyone's back, like, oh, this is a crazy scene, like the basketball game, like, what? There's people here, what? But I do like the moment that like it showed that people just manifesting in front of you is just as chaotic as just people leaving. Because like, oh, people are running into
probably
each other,
more
like,
chaotic.
They don't know what's going on.
What if you were like, you remember how in Infinity War you see the helicopter crash, right? What about the guy who was in that helicopter? Does he come back there and then just
he just flips back like, in the sky?
Just falls.
Like, hey, I'm back.
Yeah. There would be, or you're driving on the freeway and just, oh God, it's horrible when you think about it. Man.
I do like, they explored it a little bit in this show between Monica and Hayward, that there's kind of like a ideological divide between people that were blipped and people that weren't. That like, you weren't here for the past 5 years, like how hard it was, like how miserable it was, like the world has changed. And to them, like, it's the same world. So That's something that I'm kind of hoping is kind of wishful thinking. I'm kind of hoping that they explore in Falcon and Winter Soldier that like they're like occupying and like trying to do work in a world that was changed by this, that like crime and like, had to have been changed, and like politics, of course, in a world where like everyone vanished for 5 years and then everyone's back.
Yeah, it's I do think it's something that they'll have to move away from at a certain point, because it's something that could potentially become very distracting in the MCU if they focus on it too long. But like, yeah, like actually that's a really good idea for Falcon and Winter Soldier, is like they're on these missions to like go deal with some weird stuff that's happening due to the blip. You know, like that's actually pretty neat. I don't think that's what that show's going to be, but you know, I have written here on my notes. While we're on this topic, though, literally, I just wrote down expectations, because I think a lot of people had really high expectations of like, who are we going to see? We're going to see a big cameo in the last episode. And I think a lot of people were really disappointed with the last episode, because we didn't get like a Doctor Strange drop. We didn't get like a Thor
Mephisto.
drop. We didn't get a Mephisto. We didn't get like a Sir Ian McKellen. I know a lot of people were pissed off that Quicksilver turned out to be Ralph Boner.
I've been seeing all these great memes of just Thanos, like, all that for a boner joke.
It's so true. It's so true, because it really is like, just
it's the Mandarin thing from Iron Man 3 done right. Or done more onto us than the people in the show.
Yeah, I actually liked it, because
I really liked it.
It makes sense. Like, I too was like, I wonder if they're going to introduce some sort of, interdimensional travel or whatever, and they'll introduce the X-Men. But honestly, the more I think about it, it's like, well, yeah, they're not going to do that. I don't think they want to associate with that X-Men universe at all, other than maybe some nods like this, where it's like,
I definitely think with them doing multiverse stuff, that like they're kind of 2 for 2, like of ways of like teasing it. Where in Spider-Man Far From Home, they're like, oh, you're saying there's a multiverse, and like Mysterio's from the multiverse? Is like, oh no, that was all fake. Like, I'm just an asshole. And
right.
Then in WandaVision, it's like, oh, it's the multiverse, it's that X-Men. What? And like, no, it was just a boner. But they won't really get into like multiverse stuff until maybe No Way Home, but definitely in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which is the best fucking title I've ever heard.
See, to me though, like going back to expectations, I think a lot of people were disappointed, but to me, it was a lot of fun to theorize between the episodes. Even though I was wrong about all of my theories, all of my theories were wrong. But like, that's fine. Do I want them to be right? I don't think I even want my theories to be right. If I'm able to predict this shit, is it really that good? I think the fact that no one got it right just sort of says that these guys are operating on a different wavelength than all of us,
Yeah, and people just letting like their fan theories color their expectations, and when they're not met, just have them be devastated by it. Like a stupid theory I had for the Paul Bettany thing, where he's like, oh, it's an actor I've wanted to work with my whole life. Like, oh, it's going to be a big thing. A stupid thing was we did never see Monica Rambeau's astrophysicist friend, did we? That she was building up. So I was thinking, like episode 9, Will Smith as Reed Richards.
Whoa, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I thought the person she was talking about was just that random person that was there. That was like, yeah, here's your car, And I do almost feel like it was put there as like a red herring, just to get people talking. Almost because I think Marvel is like listening, like I think they're like, what are people saying? What do people want? Because You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they almost put that in there as like, do you want Reed Richards to show up? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like we'll put in this very ambiguous like lure for a specific character, and we'll see what people are expecting, what people would want this character to be.
Yeah.
This is how we'll introduce Fantastic Four. Sorry, I'm gonna rearrange here.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Much better lighting.
The whole idea of expectation though was not even a big issue for me. I did have some issues with the last episode though. Like, I know a lot of people had issues because it didn't meet their expectations. I had some issues with it just as far as, like, you know, we talked about how you liked the episode 4 a lot. Where it introduced a lot of those side characters. I thought the final episode really threw those side characters just to the side, and they just sort of were like, so much so that that Kat Dennings character,
all she did was like hit like ram someone into a truck. Yeah,
she rammed Hayward. And then even like the way they wrapped up Agatha, who was like the big reveal, the big bad, I guess, the big bad of this show.
Yeah.
Was just sort of like, yeah, she's a neighbor. The way they wrapped up a lot of this was sort of like, that felt a little half-assed and rushed. Because
like, I never really expect. Oh, sorry.
Like even like the part where Wanda like comes walking out and Monica is like, you know, if I was in your position, I'd do the same thing. And it's like, and I'm just sitting there like, is no one going to mention that she just like held these people hostage? And we don't have a concept of how long it was in real time. Like, it could have been, you know, weeks, months for them. And she held these people hostage, so much so that the people that were being held hostage when they were set free were like, please let my daughter out of her bedroom or whatever. Like, it's pretty fucked up. And like, I feel like Wanda should have had some serious repercussions, but maybe at the same time, Monica was like, well, I don't want to fuck with this chick. She'll fuck me up right now. Just let her go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And like, there was that line where she's like, oh, no matter what I do there, it's not going to change their perception of me, because she like literally mind fucked an entire town.
Yeah. To me, you know, Agatha Harkness was not the big bad of the show. It was Wanda. Wanda was the big bad of the show. Agatha was just sort of there as, you know, just to like push her along and to kind of expose a little bit more of what's happening, like as a narrative device almost, more than to be there as the big bad.
You're a witch. Like, you're this super powerful witch that like, how are you doing all this magic? Like, you can't just do all this magic like automatically. And she didn't really become like an actual like threat, like physical threat, until like the last 2 episodes. She was more so there to like pry and to like investigate, really.
So I have a few notes here. I'll go through some of my notes. I've written here, Wanda and Vision's interactions are absolutely amazing. Of course, the moment we were just talking about, where
they're watching TV,
the grief and dread line, but then also in the last episode, which makes me think that the last episode, even though it kind of falls short at the very end and some of the side characters aren't explained very well, I still think it's a really great episode, because it has that scene where she's like, you're my despair, but also you're my hope, but most of all, you're my love, or whatever the hell she says. And like, that is just some real good writing. That is just some real good shit. And like, the two of them together, Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, are just they're just too good for this world, man.
Yeah, probably the biggest takeaway I got from WandaVision, like as a whole, is that Vision is probably like the best character in the MCU in terms of like, it's the person you'd want to see as like a real guy. He's just a real like stand-up guy, just a real good person. Like him and T'Challa, like we're just both like they're very likable.
There was one scene in particular that I'm like, I want to hang out with Vision, and it's when he's telling his kids goodnight, and he's like, all right, sleep well, chaps. I really like how he said chaps. But that scene where they put the kids to bed and her ring is closing or whatever really gave me some Titanic vibes, you know? When the Titanic's sinking and it cuts to the people that are stuck on the bottom deck and they just like cover up and they just sort of accept their fate.
Yeah, like they're in bed and just like the water's creeping up on them.
Yeah, like we're dead. That's it. Nothing we can do about it.
Something I was really afraid of is that the other instances of which like you saw them getting disintegrated from like the ring closing, like it was a very painful experience. Like there, I was like, like I was afraid that they were going to close that very sweet scene. Like, thanks for choosing me to be your mom.
I'm glad they didn't do that.
They go downstairs. I burned.
No, I don't think it hurt them because like she even like holds his face while he's like getting melted. But it's fair that you would think that because like when Vision tries to fly through it, he's like getting melted and like deteriorating.
Yeah.
And that's when like Wanda expands the force field or whatever.
Maybe it's for some kind of thing where like they're not in as much pain because like she's accepting and choosing to close the ring. Where like the other times she'd done it, they were either trying to leave on their own and she didn't want them to leave, or like to be dead, or like something part of her was like, oh no, I don't want to close this, because there's that part where all of them were just like, it burns.
That's true. Also with Vision, the fact like, you know, it sort of devolved into like fighty, shooty, you know, purple laser versus red laser in the last episode, and then like white Vision versus red Vision. But what I really liked was that fight between red Vision and white Vision ultimately turned into a battle of the minds and like turned into a battle of wits.
Yeah, the whole ship of Theseus thing.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense for Vision as a character. Like, well, if I can beat you in a battle of the minds, I would rather do that. You know, he's a very diplomatic dude, even though he paralyzed Rhodey that one time. But, you know.
Yeah, but that was an accident. We'll give him a pass.
Yeah, we'll give him a pass. Yeah, I really like that scene, though. Like, it also raises a lot of questions, like, what's up with White Vision? Is White Vision now an AI permanently? And he just sort of has the memories as data in his brain? Or is White Vision actually Vision now? And if he is actually Vision, why would he just leave, you know? What do you think?
Maybe to like find out more about like himself and like the meaning of life and all that kind of stuff. Like I can imagine there'd be some kind of moment where Wanda is in either like Doctor Strange 2 or in some kind of thing where she's like full on bad guy, and then White Vision just shows up like Deus Ex Machina, and like Wanda, and just like calms her down and like stops it, and they're all happy.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like this was really a send off for Wanda and Vision, though. Like I don't think we're gonna see them together again. I really don't.
Yeah.
Because and like the new White Vision, I don't think he is Vision. You know, I think he's still just an AI. He doesn't have the Soul Stone in him, so he's not quite sentient. He will probably be a bit more robotic. He'll have all the memories of what have happened in the past, but like he won't have the feelings and emotions of being able to like love Wanda, because that's the only explanation for why he would fly off. Because if he actually got those emotions and stuff, he would have flown over and like helped out Wanda, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And kind of a weird analogy, but it's kind of like a work file of like a video or something you're making, or like a piece of art where it has all the components of it, versus like the saved file, like the PNG file of it, where like Vision, like our Vision, like good old Vision, Like he's like, oh, Ultron and the Mind Stone and like Jarvis and all that kind of stuff. And White Vision is pretty much a snapshot of what Vision is, but he's not like the amalgamation of all those things I listed.
He's basically
he
Jarvis.
Really is like a copy. Yeah.
Yeah. He's basically
he's
Jarvis.
He's closer to being Jarvis than Vision really was.
Yeah.
I do really like that line that Vision said as he was like dying, was that like first I was a voice without a body, then a body not human, then a memory made real. Like who knows what I could be next.
That's true.
Like that was super cool.
Oh, and also that scene at the end too, where you know Wanda says, "But most of all, you're my love," and then Vision says, like, you know, we've said goodbye before, so the probability, and then she's like, "Yeah, we'll say hello again." It's like, damn,
yeah,
that's good. That's good shit, man. The two of them together.
It's real good.
Yeah. I also have written here the last fight between Agatha Harkness and Wanda up in the sky has some Zack Snyder CG effects. At least that's how I perceived it. Sort of some questionable CG while they're up in the air shooting things at each other.
I mean, on the one hand, like, yeah, this is Marvel. Like, they've been doing heavy CG effects, battles and stuff for quite some time to like varying degrees of like effectiveness.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, this is still a TV show. Like, this is still an episode of a TV show.
Right.
And on the whole, it's like movie quality, but
yeah, and I actually didn't think it was that bad. It did have that CG, that Zack Snyder sort of just like red glowing background, but the difference to me, and I think it's a substantial difference, whereas like when Zack Snyder does that, it's like they're in a city and it's just red and glowing for some reason, and it looks like there's lava around them even though they're in a city. But like this makes sense because they're up in the sky fighting within a hex, which is red. And I also really liked that they kind of flipped that fight scene on its head too, where you think she's overloading her with power, but instead she's missing on purpose and creating the runes behind her. And I thought that was pretty clever.
Yeah,
pretty clever misdirect.
That didn't even read for me until you just said it. And yeah, going back to the Zack Snyder thing, where like in Marvel movies and shows like this, where, and in other things too, where they want like a very specific color palette, like for the environment and like the sky and everything and just lighting, they're able to give like a narrative reason as to like why it's that color. So like, oh, it's all red because it's like the ruins and like the hex is still around them. Well, Zack Snyder is just like, oh, it's red because I like red.
Yeah, I agree. I also have written here, I think the last episode is better than people give it credit for, but the second and last episode probably should have released together like the first and second episode. I don't know if you agree with that sentiment.
I can agree to that.
Yeah. Because like, I feel like the way they released it, where they released two of them at the same time, made a lot of sense. Because if you just got that first episode, you probably would have been like, what the fuck was that? But the fact that they gave you two, and it's like, what the fuck was that? Let's check out the next one. And you're like, oh, I'm kind of intrigued by this, you know?
Yeah.
Was really smart.
Like,
and
they knew that the show was kind of a slow burn in terms of like it getting into like the stuff that people want to see. Because like,
right,
the first episode is essentially just, on the whole, a very basic like homage to like 50s sitcom up until the end where things start glitching out and like he starts choking and Vision helps him out.
Did you freeze?
No, I'm good.
Okay. It's hard because your video has been frozen basically this entire video, but that's okay.
Shit, really?
Yeah. It's okay though. It's really not that bad.
Is it still frozen?
it's kind of been frozen, then unfreezes, and then freezes again, but like your audio doesn't freeze. Oh, nice jammies.
Oh, so now the video's working.
Yeah, now the video's working now that you're... Oh, man. That's too good. Okay. What were we talking about? I don't remember. Fuck.
Something I did want to bring up is that like we watched this show with like Ryan and Thomas and Harrison has famously hated Scarlet Witch for quite some time. Not so much like her as a character, but just like her whole power set and how like, oh, she just really does like hand wavy stuff and like can make all these like powerful things. And there were some lines and moments in the show that really got his goat, like, oh, she could have defeated Thanos on her own, or like she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. So for him, and I kind of agree to this, or like in terms of selling people on like her abilities and like her persona as like a superhero, really is like there's a few moments there, not on the whole, but there's a few moments of like Scarlet Witch is super boss, you guys. Like she's so powerful. She can do this. She could beat Thanos. She could beat Doctor Strange. She's super cool, you guys. She's not lame.
That's how you perceived it?
That's not how I perceived it, but
because like I don't know. I feel like she's been pretty powerful since the beginning. And I think the Russo brothers even recently came out and said like if Thanos didn't drop the airstrike when he did, you know, in that fight scene when she's like, you took everything from me or whatever, and he calls in the airstrike, that she would have literally turned him into a pulp. That's what the Russo brothers said. Like Wanda is just like strong. Like
Harrison thinks she's overpowered.
She is overpowered, but that's like her thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like even in the comics, there's like a few, I forget exactly what they're called. They're like super mutants though. And it's like, her, the Phoenix, Apocalypse, and there's a couple others that are like considered like super mutants. Like she is incredibly powerful, but I think that suits her really well, especially them setting her up as like the new sort of big bad in this moment. And that's how I perceive it, is like they're setting her up as the next Avengers level threat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't have as many gripes as like Harrison and other people of her being like overpowered and like she can do all these things and she's like this powerful and being overpowered. But I am a bit more excited to see her with that level of power being like a threat than her just being a member of the team, because like I don't have these kind of complaints, but like it's like, oh, if they're handling this, like why don't they just bring in Scarlet Witch and she can just take them out like that for this Avengers level threat? But I'm more excited to see her as like an anti-hero or like a big bad than
and I also think like in those earlier Avengers movies, and I feel like they kind of showcase it too, like she doesn't have full control of her powers. And I feel like they showcase that, like even in Captain America Civil War, which has that amazing opening scene where they're all fighting and stuff, and she's like flinging Captain America around and shit, is so good. I love that scene so much. But it ends with her trying to contain a bomb and she throws it up in the air and it explodes in the sky and stuff. Like it kind of shows that she doesn't really have full control of her powers.
Right.
But she is uber powerful. And even in this show, you know, Agatha comes out and is like, you don't know what kind of power you possess. And then when she unleashes the Scarlet Witch, it's like, you don't know what you've done. Like, you are uber powerful now, like the most powerful thing that exists. And then the fact that we got that end credits scene where she's like reading the book and stuff and like astral projecting herself to read the book or whatever, that's how I perceive it. Just shows that she's gonna be tough. she's gonna be
she's gonna have greater control of her powers.
Yeah.
And what she's gonna do with them, we don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about the commercials.
Okay.
From WandaVision, like, because you brought up the Civil War thing. Probably my favorite one was Lagos for those messes that you didn't mean to make.
Yeah.
That one, and the fucking one that was on the 90s, like 2000s episode. That's like the stop motion.
That claymation
one that looks like those fruity gushers. Yeah, the like fruity gushers, like fruit by the foot ones.
That one's so creepy.
Like, here's like go magic.
I thought those were really cool. A lot of them were very on the nose of what they were. There were some like red herrings though, right? Like they talk about like the Nexus pills, and then it shows her taking some sort of medication. But they don't ever explain that, and I guess they can just write it away as she was just taking ibuprofen. But then it's like, does ibuprofen work on a super mutant?
That's a question I didn't expect to hear today.
Like if a super mutant has a hangover, will ibuprofen work, or will their body just sort of like?
Professor X, no. Wolverine, he doesn't need it.
No. I mean, I would think Wolverine would need it, though. I bet he's, like, in immense pain all the time.
He's got that healing factor.
Yeah, but he's probably always healing, and it probably always hurts. I always wondered with the Wolverine, like, if he doesn't injure himself enough, do his cells start to, like, fuse too much, and he gets, like, cancer? These are the kind of thoughts that I have about superheroes.
Do you think there'd be that thing where if he gets cut in half, like does each half heal into like a different version of the other half, so we get two Wolverines?
Oh, well, I don't think you could cut Wolverine in half because he's got that adamantium skeleton. You
just try really, really hard.
But like. That is the question maybe for Deadpool. If you were to cut Deadpool in half, I guess just the half with his brain would grow, right? I don't know.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Whichever half has like, his brain and like his heart, like they would heal, while the other one just like its legs.
That would make sense to me. Yeah, because there is that comic book scene where he gets blown into a million pieces, but a little piece of his brain matter like survives, so like he grows back because of his brain matter. Deadpool. Whoa. Ridiculous. yeah Deadpool's OP as fuck, but it's okay because he's funny. How'd you feel about the sitcom stuff while we're on the commercials and stuff?
No, I liked it. Something funny I found out, well, not so much funny, is it's actually really cool. For at least the 50s and the 60s style episodes, they actually went and talked to Dick Van Dyke to ask him, really? Like, oh, is this how they were filmed? Like, how are they supposed to look, even though it's supposed to be in monotone, black and white? And so they went to him for some advice. And of course, they show a bit of his show like later on. Yeah,
as a little homage. And I also heard that at least that first episode was shot in front of a live studio audience as well.
Yeah.
Which is really
super cool.
Fucking cool. Not COVID friendly, but this was pre-COVID. So
I think they started film. Yeah, they must have filmed that pre-COVID, and then production had to halt, and then they filmed the rest of it sometime last fall.
Yeah, I think they filmed a good portion of it before COVID, but they had to push the show back because the show was supposed to come out last year.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, I thought it was really cool how they kind of gave homage to some of those shows, like the Dick Van Dyke Show for sure. They showed Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, which seeing like we've pretty much grown up seeing people do homages and parodies of like 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s sitcom, and it's really funny for us to see like parodies of stuff that we grew up with, like Malcolm in the Middle type show, or I loved in the like the aughts, like the 2000s one, which was like right before the big Previously On episode. They had that not Office version of the main theme.
I do take issue with the not Office theme though, and let me explain why. Okay, The Office, famously, not a show about a family.
Well, you could say that they're like a family.
Yeah. Michael Scott's like the dad. Yeah. I didn't have a problem with the episode because I felt like the episode was paying more homage to like Modern Family than it was The Office.
Yeah.
But the theme song was definitely just straight up The Office. Like that was just The Office. Yeah, but also, does this mean that is Bryan Cranston canon in the MCU now?
I think so.
I think Brian
can't be
anything
in a Marvel movie. Though Star Wars is canon, so it's fair to assume that Samuel Jackson is Mace Windu. Or maybe it's like that Last Action Hero thing where the kid is in the world of the movie that stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then he goes to like a Blockbuster to like see like Terminator 2 starring Sylvester Stallone.
Or it's like Human Centipede.
What?
Because the second Human Centipede is about a guy who watches the first Human Centipede movie, and he's like, I should make a Human Centipede. You know what I mean? But the way I take it is only the original trilogy exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because they only reference...
That's a question then.
They only reference the original trilogy. They never reference the prequels.
That's a question then. Would you rather live in our world where we have the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, or would you want to live in the MCU world where we only get the original trilogy, but then all this shit happens with Thanos and everyone dying?
Yeah, I definitely don't want to live in the MCU. That sounds hellacious. Unless I am one of the super people, you know?
Unless you're Thor.
Yeah, like I would love to be Thor or Monica Rambeau, which we haven't mentioned much. Like she becomes a superhero in this show.
Yeah, which my favorite shot from the whole show was during the whole part where she's like trying to walk through the wall of the hex, and there's that shot where you see like 4 different versions of her like being torn apart, and it's like in that RBG like old TV style like visual effect.
Oh yeah, that was so cool.
That was viciously cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah, and then I just sort of felt like that character was just thrown to the side a bit. She was just sort of there so they don't have to set her up in the next movie she's going to be in. That's kind of how I felt. It's like, let's set her up here so we don't have to set her up in Captain Marvel 2 or whatever. And also we can use her to explain that Boner, you know, is Quicksilver, and it's more of an homage than anything else, you know?
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Something that I am looking forward to with like the MCU. Like for a while it was like, oh, it's cool that we saw this character from this movie is now in this movie. What? And it's going to be really interesting to see like, whoa, this character from this TV show is now in this movie, like on the big screen. Like, yeah, that's going to be cool.
We had been talking about that for a while, where we're like, will we ever see like an Iron Man show up in the Daredevil shows? But now in hindsight, that seems ridiculous because those shows are so like disconnected. But this is so like where Daredevil felt sort of like tangentially like connected, where it's like connected but it isn't. This is 100% connected, you know, like they're, You know what I mean? Like, so it is pretty cool that, and it cements
characters that it stars. Sorry,
go ahead. It's the delay.
Like it stars characters that have been in and will be in movies.
Yeah, it's so cool. I like it a lot because I think it cements the comic book thing, where like.
Yeah,
I think it was hard for them to pull off like we're making comic books but live action now, and I think it was hard to pull that off when you're just releasing 3 movies a year. Now they can continue releasing 3-4 movies a year, but they can also release 3 shows a year. So now you've just got like this entire fucking Marvel, I guess, universe. I think that's the only way to describe it.
Well, I never heard it called it that before. But
it really feels like a universe now. Like they really have cemented that this is comic books now.
Like a lot of people
and
will still argue that it's like it's nothing but Marvel movies now coming out. Like there's nothing else original coming out. Which there's that argument, but Marvel's just doing on the screen what they and other people have done in comics for decades. Like separate ongoing series of comics going on simultaneously that you can just all available on the shelf.
And is 3 movies a year really every movie is Marvel? Come on. Like, just go see more movies. That's on you, motherfuckers. Why can't we have both?
And seek out movies that are coming out. Like if you just see everything that you're advertised, of course you're going to think it's all like Disney and like Warner Brothers stuff. Like seek out movies in venues that you're not as familiar with, like indie movies or like stuff on streaming, or
like the Human Centipede 2.
Of course, masterpiece.
I don't know. Like, I don't like that argument because it's dumb. I think it's like, why can't we have the Marvel Cinematic Universe and we can still have great movies? Because we have had great movies over the past few years. I know last year was weird, but even last year we had some great movies that came out, even during a pandemic.
Like we got Soul and like Wolfwalkers and
Tenet.
God. Yeah, I guess. But the Witches came out on HBO Max, which that one it was not a great movie, but I had a fun time with it. Yeah,
I also really liked that new Denzel movie with Jared Leto. It wasn't amazing, but it was fine.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. Yeah, I think it was called The Little Things. I don't know. It was pretty good.
Jared, we live in a society. Leto.
Jared damaged Leto. Hey, speaking of
Jared
witches.
Leto.
Speaking of witches, I wanted to toss this out because we haven't talked about her too much. Fucking Catherine Hahn is amazing. I love her. I love that they kind of set her up as the new Loki. That's how I feel anyway. That I feel like she's going to show up in all sorts of movies in the future. She'll be like the new sort of, she's a villain, but she's also like kind of funny and kind of, she's a villain that you kind of hate to love, you know, because she's very likable. She's a very likable actress, you know?
Like right off the bat, they're like, as soon as they reveal she's a bad guy, they have this whole song where it's like, it was Agatha all along. And she's like, oh, ooh.
Yeah, I know. She's so good. And dude, she is able to just like pull those different personas off so well, where she's able to just be like, howdy neighbor, but then it goes back to the scene where she's like hung up on the stake by the different witches, and she plays it so straight and serious, and she's like really fucking good. She's like a chameleon of an actor, and like I'm excited not to see her in the next MCU movie. I hope she's in just more movies in general, because goddamn, she's amazing.
You know that she was Doc Ock in Into the Spider-Verse?
She was. I did know that, yeah. She's great in that movie, too. Yeah, I felt like all the performances in the show were top-notch.
Yeah, it was a really well-acted show.
Yeah. Elizabeth Olsen, definitely stole the show, which makes sense. It is titled after
Yeah.
her. Paul Bettany
God,
was amazing as well.
With every episode and every other instance of seeing Elizabeth Olsen get all this fame and all this attention for being Scarlet Witch and like being in the biggest movies in the world, I just still think it's hilarious that like when she was a little kid, like her sisters, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, were like in straight to video stuff and like Full House and like,
and she was in some of those things too.
Yeah, and they were the biggest shit in the world. And she's like, "Oh, someday I'm gonna be in comic book movies." And they're like, "Oh yeah, right. Just go sit in the corner." But now she's like the biggest thing. She's in the biggest things in the world.
Yeah, the most successful television show ever. I have one more thing about the show, and then I want to talk about expectations of the MCU, of the future of the MCU.
Sure.
Talk about predictions and stuff. Do you have anything to add, though, before I get to my last question about the show? What do you think?
Where was Mephisto? I was promised Mephisto by me.
Where's Mephisto? Where was Jared Leto's Joker?
You
know what? While we're on the sort of side tangent, the fact that they even explained away why she loses her accent sometimes, they even explained that. They even were like, "Oh yeah, it's because she watched sitcoms and that's how she got rid of her accent, and that's why it comes and goes." It's like, oh, okay, fair enough.
At least they explained that, and like her being more like acclimated to like being in America and like having more of an accent. At least they explained that more than Halle Berry as Storm in the X-Men movies. Because like in the first two, like she still has a bit of an accent, but then the third one, she's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Halle Berry.
Yeah,
like I'm Storm."
But like, but even Elizabeth Olsen, she drops into the accent pretty good though. I think when she does have the accent, it's pretty good. Like I don't have any issues with it. You know? It's
one of those things that like when she gets into the accent or like tilts her head, then you know some shit is going down.
Yeah. So my last note here before the what is the future of the MCU is I just have written here, what up with them kids? What do you think's going on with those kids?
Well, they're not real. That's what you're wondering.
They aren't real, but at the end, she hears them.
She hears them in her mind, which is where they exist because they're not real.
Is it in her mind or is it in a different dimension?
Oh, maybe she pulled like an alternate universe where she has kids, like she stole them from her alternate universe self.
Yeah,
so, like, they are her kids, just not the version of her that she is.
I almost feel like Wanda may be opening up some, dare I say, multiverses of madness, because she was sitting in that cabin looking hella Doctor Strange in there. You know, she did the whole like head twitchy thing that he does, like that seemed like some Doctor Strange shit, and she's like hearing her kids and. I want there to be a moment where, like, oh, we're supposed to have in mind, like, she's more powerful than Doctor Strange. Where, like, in Infinity War, he looks into the future and sees all the possible outcomes. It's like 14,605. She's like, well, I read 14,607 probabilities. So she's way more powerful. And he's like, no! Yeah. Oh, shit. What was I going to say?
Expectations.
Doctor Strange, expectations. There was something else. Fuck. Oh, missed opportunity, I think, in the show. This is what I was going to say. You know, they brought back Pietro from the X-Men universe. They didn't have him do like an epic X-Men sort of scene though, you know? I feel like that was
him running around in
slow-mo. But like what would have been even cooler is if it wasn't him that did it. You know, in the last episode when she's like, kids deal with the military and the kid does like the fast run and grabs all the guns. What if they did an epic thing, but it's the kid?
That would have been sick.
That would have been fucking awesome, dude. That's a missed opportunity, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It would have gotten us to like at least one of the kids a lot more and feel bad that they're not real and that they get disintegrated.
Yeah, because it did feel a little like I've known these kids for 2 days. Like, why do I care about these kids? Fuck them, as Michael Jordan once said. Fuck them kids. You know.
I thought John Cantrell said that.
He did. Yeah. So what do you expect from the future of the MCU? I know we were talking about expectations and we shouldn't set expectations, but let's set those expectations.
More movies, more shows.
I expect more movies. I expect more shows.
More merchandise. Yeah.
The big rumor that
for real.
The big rumor that was going around though was like we'll get a secret episode next week, and
yeah, that's what I heard too.
Like everyone wants that secret episode. I guess we'll see. I imagine we'll get like a making of next week or something.
Yeah, I think that's what we are getting. But
I'm cool with that. I'm actually more into that than a secret episode.
Like they have been toying with like doing multiverse stuff, so I'm really expecting them to go full hog on doing that. Maybe in Spider-Man 3, but definitely in Doctor Strange too.
Yeah, what's the lineup looking like now? I know coronavirus is like really fucked up the rollout. I know we're supposed to get Black Widow at some point, but I feel like that's going to be a movie of no consequence. You know what I mean? Of little impact to the universe.
Like if anything, I think they should just put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, at this point. But I think their reasoning is like we spent like $200 million on this movie. It's hard to
That is true.
It's hard to justify just putting it on Disney Plus, but they could do what they did with Raya, you know, that new and like charge $30 for it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like even before Corona, I didn't see that movie making as much money because at least where we were at the time that it was supposed to come out, like WandaVision hadn't come out yet. People were still kind of on continuing with the MCU. So having like a flashback, like origin, like solo movie of a character that's dead isn't exactly going to bring people back. It wouldn't bring in the numbers. So I think it would bring in the numbers now because like, it's a new movie. It's a new big movie. Then we're craving those.
I think any movie that comes out is going to make a lot of money.
The Croods 2 has been like at number 1 and 2 at the box office since Thanksgiving.
Well, and that's been the thing, has been like family movies do really well. So I think that's why they feel confident putting a movie like Raya out on like the streaming service and theaters, like as a paid subscription versus Black Widow, because I think Black Widow is maybe a bit of an older audience. Not like old, but like, you know, teenagers, you know, probably like 14 to 35 is probably the age range, I'd guess. Which is, you know, skews a bit older. And I think a lot of that age range is like, I'll just wait until it's like free on Disney Plus, you know? Versus the kids where they're like, I want to see the Croods, Mom. Take me to see the Croods. You know what I mean? And you're going to take that little shit to see the Croods, you know?
I saw the Croods too.
Yeah, what'd you think?
It was more like the poo.
Ooh, it was bad. I like the first one a lot. I didn't see this.
No, I love the first one. The first one's really good. The second one doesn't even feel like a sequel. It just it kind of feels like, so the first one is like, it's in the same vein as like How to Train Your Dragon, where it's like all this world building and like all these cool designs, and it's like has strong character, heart of family. The second one feels a lot more like a Hotel Transylvania sequel. And I'm not dissing Hotel Transylvania. I love those movies, but it's a lot wackier and a lot crazier and just a lot more just lol random humor.
Would you compare it to Ice Age?
Yes.
Because the first Ice Age slaps, dude. Like, I think we all sleep on the
does.
first Ice Age. It just...
No, I rewatched that movie like maybe once a year, and that's just a really likable movie to rewatch and revisit.
It's really good, but then I think like people get all pissy. Well, not pissy. They like forget about how good the first one is because the subsequent films are not that, and maybe that's what they're going to do with the Croods. Also, rest in peace, Ice Age. We'll probably never see another one of those. Yeah, I think the future of the
making is.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go.
No, I want to hear what they're making. I'm very curious.
No, the last thing that they have made that is going to come out is like this spin-off show or special for a character from Ice Age 3 coming to Disney Plus. But there is a movie that they were making that was like 75% complete that Disney just canceled when closed the studio, but it was one that a lot of people were looking forward to based on like this graphic novel, and was going to have like an openly gay relationship, and it's like this high fantasy thing. And
yeah,
Disney's cool. Now people are wanting them to shop it around to like Netflix or like Warner Brothers or DreamWorks or whatever.
Disney's gonna cancel that. Yeah, Disney doesn't have the balls. Come on, like we all wanted gay Finn and Poe, and we didn't get it. We all wanted gay Elsa. We didn't get it. Disney doesn't have the balls.
I mean, the most we got is maybe that one cop from Onward, and fucking from the live action Beauty and the Beast, Josh Gad's character LeFou.
Yeah, but he's like jokey sort of gay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's also the gay couple in the Star Wars in the background that they edited out in the Chinese releases.
Like underlined in the background.
Yeah, fuck you, Disney. You have no balls. I think the future of the MCU could be interesting. I'm very interested to see where they take it. I'm very curious about this new Spider-Man movie. Like, what... I know Tom Holland is coming out and saying, no, there's no Tobey Maguire, there's no Andrew Garfield. I don't believe it. I don't believe him. Of course he's going to say that. I don't believe him.
Yeah, I don't believe him either. And
I do think
on paper, I don't really like how that sounds. Like, oh, we're just bringing in like the old Spider-Mans to like justify to like a lot of these people that like, oh, like our Spider-Man's not good enough, so we got to bring in these old ones. That, like, because like Sam Raimi fans are pretty like Sam Raimi Spider-Man fans are pretty vicious on any other Spider-Man. And I don't know, it could be really cool. Like I heard something that like, oh, all these actors coming back, like Willem Dafoe and like Alfred Molina and Jamie Foxx are coming back to play like those villains, but just not their other movie versions of those characters. Like MCU, like new versions of those characters. So
yeah, I can see that,
but not like blue Electro.
Yeah, it could be like how we got Ralph Boner in this episode. You know, like what everyone's been wanting is Tobey Maguire to play Uncle Ben. You know, and I fully back that 100%. I think that'd be great. And they brought back J. Jonah Jameson as they brought back J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. So they could just be bringing them in to do different things. You could have Andrew Garfield just there doing something. I don't know what he do.
So I've been watching.
He could play Harry Osborn.
And I've been watching BoJack Horseman, and like in the first season, just Andrew Garfield's a character who just talks very eccentrically, very British, and like just moves around his arms a lot and just tilts his head, and he has big hair. So I'm just imagining him doing something in Spider-Man, just like in the corner, just like moving around with his big hair.
Who's the guy who played Green Goblin in
Dane DeHaan?
Dane DeHaan. They should bring him back.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
He's a good actor, and I feel like he didn't get a fair shake.
Yeah.
He's a good actor. I really like him in Chronicle. He's fucking amazing in that movie.
Yo, I still haven't seen that.
You haven't seen Chronicle? Bruh.
I haven't seen Chronicle.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to watch Chronicle, and then right after that, we're going to watch Fan4Stick.
Oh, hell yeah.
We'll watch the evolution. Have you seen Fan4Stick?
I have not.
Dude, that's the move. We'll watch the Josh Trank, not trilogy, the Josh Trank duality?
The duo.
The duo? The pair? The pair of Josh Trank films? Apparently he just released some like Al Capone movie recently. So he's still working, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Had like Tom Hardy in it? Is that?
Yeah. There's released the Snyder cut. Where's released the Josh Trank cut?
Yeah, for real, dude. Josh Trank. Let's see. He released Capone, which came out last year, starring Tom Hardy. So he's still working. Still working. Yeah. It's got a 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. Killing it. 25% audience score. Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't know. I think the MCU is wide open right now to do whatever they want, and that's pretty exciting. Because I think like for a long time they were kind of held back by, we got to do something with Thanos. Thanos is there. We've got the Infinity Stones, and now it's sort of just like it's wide open. You've got a million different directions. We've got mutants. We haven't introduced Galactus yet. He'll obviously be a big bad at some point, but that could wrap up the entire fucking thing. Because don't you think at some point they've got to wrap up the entire thing, right?
Yeah. It's got to be like some big event thing, maybe in like 10, 15 years.
Yeah, at some point they got to wrap it up. They'll probably reboot it, but yeah, they got to wrap it up.
That's going to be like
they'll like New 52.
That's going to be a day like how Phantom Menace, like just a lot of people didn't go to work, and like an X amount of money of productivity was lost because people just didn't go to work to go see Phantom Menace. That's what's going to happen with like this fabled last MCU movie.
Oh yeah, dude, it's going to be huge. Unless
it's going to be Howard the Duck.
Unless they really fuck it up over the next couple of years. We will see.
Yeah.
They could. I don't see how they could, though. They could. I don't see how they could. If Kevin Feige leaves, all hope is lost. Well, folks, that was our WandaVision Spoilercast. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you share all of this. We're going to get more nerdy about a lot of other things, me and Austin, I think, in the future. We may, drag Nick into some of these as well. Make sure you check out our show, the other shows, the Loner Gamecast. We do it live every Monday on Twitch, comes to YouTube and everywhere else on Tuesdays. And make sure you check out the Jake and Corey podcast that launches every Monday. Yeah, we're gonna be doing a lot more of these. We've got a lot planned for these. Me and Cassie are still gonna be doing our chick flick show. We're gonna be reviewing some more chick flicks very soon here. Lots of stuff happening on the channel, so make sure you subscribe. Thanks, guys.